But Senator, let me state, and I'll state here emphatically, that if the Electoral Commission and President Nanado and Dr. Bawumia and whoever is involved thinks that the 2024 elections are going to be determined by any court in this country, they should rethink. The elections of 2024 will not be determined by any court in this country. The 2024 elections are going to be determined by the people of this country. And if anybody thinks that all that they are doing, Anochi is the one controlling the Electoral Commission. Everybody knows the NCA person. So you know, if any of them think that they can rig these elections so that Yande goes to court for the 717070 to be done, they should rethink. It will not be done. There is a popular proverb in Dagbani that a very troublesome child is not given birth to by only one woman. Several women can give birth to such children. Silbo said that the machines have not been used for 3 years. And therefore, because they haven't been used for 3 years, when you start to use them, you find these challenges. This is completely unacceptable. Now, the machines that haven't been used for 3 years, my 3-year-old daughter would have known that machines that have not been used for 3 years, if you want to use them, you test run them. You haven't done that. You send those machines, and those machines are functioning. Meanwhile, you have already given the number of days the exercise is going to take place. Then you tell me, don't worry, because we haven't used the machines for 3 years, that is why you have this difficulty. As time goes on, the machines will pick up. It simply doesn't make sense. And this thing happens across the country. Look, one would say that let's take solace in what God says and says that, look, whatever anybody does, you'll be able to do that. But I'm saying that God helps those who do what? Who help themselves. We need to fight this. And everything the Electoral Commission is doing, it is scripted. It is scripted. It is not something that they just sit and out of incompetence. They know precisely what they are doing. They are following a script which is designed by Anochi, the MCA man, and that is what they are implementing. 2016 when we had this registration, we had over 6,000 centers. Yet Jim Mensah and my good friend Comrade Okujeto did an excellent research, and I saw a video where he indicated the position and the statements that were made by Jim Mensah when she was the executive director, or the executive whatever at the IE. Her position has completely changed. In fact, Dr. Bosman Asari was the one who was the loudest in speaking about the need for people not to be disenfranchised, the need for the Electoral Commission to expand the registration. He spoke to these issues on several occasions. When he was the head of Department of the Political Science, even before he became the head of Department of Political Science of University of Ghana, he always found a space. I believe at that time, even if journalists were not calling him, he would call and say, grant me interview, so that he would make his position very known. He has turned 360 degrees, completely against the very position he took before he became the deputy, electoral commissioner for the purposes of elections.
Whenever I say my PENDREAM TV there, I see them yopo.
For higher PENDREAM TV in Pachos, and your first time I subscribe to channel no found Sabo. I don't manage to set the video be a tour. Ube first person I website. Usha video new send a voice note to mine. I was 0277-128-777 0277-128-777. I be bo actually Ghana for you na. For yanko share and the video number.
Specifically, Article 42 says, among others, that every citizen has the right to vote and is entitled to be registered. My interest is the entitlement and also to be registered. So that entitlement is a right, an inalienable right, that nothing should serve as an inselbeck on the way of anybody who is interested and willing to be registered, that is entitled to be registered, as long as that person is 18 years and above with sound mind. Now, the only institution clothed with the power, the capacity, the authority, the resources to ensure that that entitlement is realized is the Electoral Commission. There isn't any institution that is given the right by law to undertake that exercise except the Electoral Commission. Again, apart from the constitutional obligation which enjoins the Electoral Commission to undertake this exercise, the Electoral Commission itself sees the need to come out with a law, which of course they brought it to Parliament and Parliament passed it into a CI. So that is, you can describe it as the law of the Electoral Commission. The CI 91 and CI 25 as amended also enjoins the Electoral Commission to ensure that there is a realization of this entitlement by registering people for the purposes of elections at convenient places or a convenient place where elections are conducted. Elections are not done at the EC district offices. Elections are done at various polling stations. The conveniency is talking about the need for people not to go through difficulty to be able to participate in the electoral process. The convenience also includes that people should not be denied that right because of financial constraints. So there are a lot of interpretations you can give to this. So when you find the only institution clothed with the authority, the capacity to ensure there is this realization of the entitlement itself, putting in measures to ensure that people are denied of this right, then there is a problem. But Senator, let me state, and I'll state here emphatically, that if the Electoral Commission and President Nanabe and Dr. Bawumia and whoever is involved thinks that the 2024 elections are going to be determined by any court in this country, they should rethink. The elections of 2024 will not be determined by any court in this country. The 2024 elections are going to be determined by the people of this country. And if anybody thinks that all that they are doing, Anarchy is the one controlling the Electoral Commission. Everybody knows the NCA person. So you know, if any of them think that they can rig these elections so that Yande goes to court for the 717070 to be done, they should rethink. It will not be done. There is a popular proverb in Dagbani that a very troublesome child is not given birth to by only one woman. Several women can give birth to such children. So let they be informed that 2024 will not be a repetition of 2020. And we are saying this because the Constitution enjoins us to do so. The national anthem of Ghana entreats us to stand for our rights at any point in time. We are not saying that we are going to truncate the democratic process, but let no one attempt to deny the people of their right as to who governs them. We have all collectively agreed to charter the path of democracy. And once you agree to charter the path of democracy, it comes with some requirements. So anybody who is doing anything that will frustrate that requirement, collectively we must stand up to such persons. So one, again, this is not the first time we are undertaking this exercise. But before I go to that, I want to expose the hypocrisy and lack of principles of the NPP as a political party. All the political parties who were at IPAC, excluding NDC, when the Electoral Commissioner and the Electoral Commission made a proposal to undertake this exercise at various district offices of the Electoral Commission, they all kicked against it. On that day, specifically on Joy FM, the day Jean Mensah held that reckless and irresponsible press conference, Joy FM interviewed one of the spokespersons of the political parties who were at IPAC, and the gentleman said on Joy that the Electoral Commission came with the proposal and they told the Electoral Commission resoundingly that they were not going to accept that particular proposal and that the NPP supported their position. On that same program, they called the NPP, one of the deputy secretaries who was at IPAC, and he confirmed that all of them, of course the NDC was not there, and I'll come to why some people think that the NDC should be at the IPAC, and my position as Murtala, not just as a communicator for NDC or as a member of parliament. Now, the NPP spokesperson, I think one of the deputy secretaries, said that yes, we all agreed and we told the Electoral Commission that they should not undertake this exercise at the various district offices of Electoral Commission because that was going to disenfranchise many people. What happened after 24 or 48 hours? That the NPP turned 360 degrees and they have virtually become the spokespersons for the Electoral Commission. He is the only NPP person I have seen who spoke genuinely and sincerely about this without necessarily following the bandwagon. All of them have started defending the Electoral Commission. So if someone says the NPP lacks principles, I think it is absolutely perfect to say so. Because why? If you all agree that the registration be done at the various polling stations, and the Electoral Commission decides to do otherwise, and all the political parties with whom you agreed that it should be done at the various polling stations have taken a position and you took a different position, it means that you don't have principles. When that thing happened, when I listened to the gentleman, I said, look, these people, you can't trust them. Of course, I just have who's, very shameless apologies enough to tell you that if you are believing or you trust NPP, you are naked. So that is one point I need to expose, the hypocrisy and the lack of principles of the NPP. I am an active participant in this process. On Tuesday or Monday, I was on another sister TV station and accused Jean Mensa of being an NPP activist. And Dr. Bosman Asari saw the need to call into the program. And his first statement was that my assertion that Jean Mensa is an NPP activist is not true. What I got from his intervention, before I'll come to some of the issues he raised, what I got from his intervention was that he himself knew in the heart of his heart that it was unethical and immoral and unfair for you to appoint an activist of a political party to man the affairs of elections. If not, why would he want to deny something which is obvious? Now, I then told him, okay, granted that Jean Mensa is not even an activist of NPP. You, Dr. Bosman Asari, you are my 2-year senior at Lagos. I was in psychology department, he was in political science. We are all on the same compound. You were an active member of TESCOM. You became a patron when you became a lecturer and the head of the department. Became a patron for the NPP. So by of desperately trying to deny the fact that Jean Mensa was an NPP activist, it means that you are not fit to be there. So it is very clear that NPP activists have been appointed to man the affairs of the Electoral Commission. Jean Mensa, Dr. Bosman Asari, and Sirbo. So what do you expect? You expect, the evolution of that strategy to do so. Let me also state, I know for a fact that Dr. Bawumia has started giving money to some district electoral officers for the purposes of rigging these elections. I want to send a message to those district electoral officers. You take the money, I don't have any problem. You attempt to do anything in these 2024 elections, you bear the consequences alone. Because we know everything that they are doing. Now, isn't it unfair also that Dr. Bosman Asari on that same program said that by their analysis and what happened in the 2029 registration, the guarantor system was abused. Now, if the guarantor system was abused, whose responsibility was it to ensure that it was not abused? It was the Electoral Commission. Invariably telling us the reason why they wouldn't expand it is because they can't vouch for the guarantor system. So it tells me one thing. It tells me that they desperately want to pass the new CI for the purposes of limiting the registration only by identification through the use of the Ghana card. Look, that thing, they should bring it to Parliament. We will fight it any day. So what they are doing now is that if they allow the registration to be done at the various polling stations, there would be registrants would have all registered, so that even if they succeed in their wildest dream of passing the new CI, they will not be able to get the numbers to do so. The program I was just coming from, Kwame Musa Dankwa, Info Analytica, he published a research that they have done on the elections from 2019 up to even 2023. And about 59 would-be first-time voters have all said they will vote for NDC and President Mohammed. 59%. And only 20-something percent, 23% said they will vote for President Nana. And having realized that if they expand this, and he said it on the program that the NPP have realized with the Electoral Commission, they could not be doing this without the connivance of the Electoral Commission. If they allow the registration to be done at various polling stations, most of the would-be first-time voters would have the opportunity to register. So if they have the opportunity to register, the more the first-time voters register, the better for the NDC. But the fewer the registration of the first-time voters, better for the NPP. So clearly, and Musa Dankwa is not an NDC person. Clearly, that is what the NPP, the Electoral Commission, is doing. And let no one be deceived into thinking that they are not doing it. Jim Mensah is not doing it in connivance with the NPP. After all, Jim Mensah is a family member to Rebecca. I said that Nkweku Bako sat on Metro TV and lied that what I was saying was not true. When it turned out in court that indeed Jim Mensah was a family relation to Rebecca, he has still not gotten the space to apologize to me. Now, another very important point. When you look at the registration that is being done, Tamale Central, Tamale South, we all operate under the Tamale Metropolitan Assembly. Then you have Tamale North and Sanargu operating under the Sanargu municipality. And it is very clear, among these four constituencies, huge numbers of voters are coming from these two constituencies, Tamale South and Tamale Central. Now, the other districts where the numbers are not even more, you provide one machines for each of them. It doesn't simply make sense. So, assuming Tamale Center has a possible, let's say, 10,000 or 15,000 new registered voters, and you take another district which has, let's say, 500, for example, then you provide Tamale Center with one machine, provide that district with one machine. The first day, only one person registered in Tamale Central. One. Because in total, 5 people registered. The second day, 35 people registered in Tamale Central. The third day, 83 people registered in Tamale Central. And the numbers were huge. There were hundreds, if not thousands, for these two constituencies. Now, people will come there, and the only way they come there is for you to provide them with transportation and feeding. Now, if the people comes and they get the chance to even register, that is fair. But they will come because of the malfunction of the machines. They are not able to register. They go home tomorrow. You need to look for another resources to bring them. And why are the machines not functioning properly? Silbo provided a response or an answer. Silbo said that the machines have not been used for 3 years. And therefore, because they haven't been used for 3 years, when you start to use them, you find these challenges. This is completely unacceptable. Now, the machines that haven't been used for 3 years, my 3-year-old daughter would have known that machines that have not been used for 3 years, if you want to use them, you test run them. You haven't done that. You send those machines, and those machines are functioning. Meanwhile, you have already given the number of days the exercise is going to take place. Then you tell me, don't worry, because we haven't used the machines for 3 years, that is why you have this difficulty. As time goes on, the machines will pick up. It simply doesn't make sense. And this thing happens across the country. Look, one would say that let's take solace in what God says and says that, look, whatever anybody does, you'll be able to do that. But I'm saying that God helps those who do what? Who help themselves. We need to fight this. And everything the Electoral Commission is doing, it is scripted. It is scripted. It is not something that they just sit and out of incompetence. They know precisely what they are doing. They are following a script which is designed by Anochi, the NCA man, and that is what they are implementing. And maybe perhaps that takes me to the issue of the NDC participating in the IPAC. Look, I was of the view that we didn't need to get out of the IPAC in the first place. And I have held this view strongly, that for you to fight a system that has an agenda to rig elections, you need to be involved. But for a moment, I am tempted to believe that those who said we should not belong to IPAC and took a decision not to participate in IPAC have been vindicated. They have been vindicated because Why should IPAC collectively take a decision and the electoral commission will disregard that decision and do what they want to do? So even if the NBC was an active participant in this IPAC, it wouldn't have made any. Now I listened to the NPP Deputy National Secretary, one of the Deputy National Secretary, my brother Haruna, on Joy yesterday, and he said that they have also complained to the Electoral Commission about the challenges they go through. And I said, perhaps now that the one holding the big dagger behind Jin Mensa complain, if the complaint is sincere, they may have to do something about it. Now perhaps, and I'm saying this with caution, if they indeed complain, they are doing so because it is not benefiting them, particularly in rural constituencies. I have spoken with few of our colleagues from NPP in Parliament who have all expressed anger and frustration over the decision to have this exercise done at the various electoral. But you see, they are zombies. Zombie no go chop unless Papa tell them to chop. They can't speak out because I told some of them. But if this thing happen, why can't you speak out? I said, Murtala, if you speak out, you'll be dealt with. Now, for me, that is the biggest worry. Look, if there is any problem in 2024, Jin Mensa, Dr. Bosman Asare, Sir Buananado, and Dr. Baumia will be held absolutely responsible. And the hypocrisy of the international community, for me, is legendary. The American Embassy, the British High Commission, the European Union, they are in a complete state of incommunicado. Meanwhile, internally, they are worried about moves that have been made by this government. But you know why? They use Ghana's democracy as a showcase of how their type of democracy is working, and therefore it must not be disturbed. I want them to know that if they do not speak out, just as they had their voices when NBC was in power and never attempted a scintilla of what is happening today, and because they want to protect their so-called system of democracy, and therefore they allow President Nanado and the NPP to mess up with our democracy, they will one day wake up and cry. That style of democracy, if care is not taken, will be destroyed. Many democracies that have been destroyed were destroyed not just overnight, but because of the refusal to act by those who had the capacity to act, and they refused to act. Because look, to be very honest with you, what happened in 2020, I can assure you, wouldn't happen in 2024. It won't happen. Because whether they like it or not, NPP has to go. And all those who are sincere and who do not fear and speak their mind, even those who have association with NPP, they have all indicated how they have messed up this country. Now, those who are supposed to speak out are not speaking out. For what? And they think that if they are not speaking out and people are suffocating, when the suffocation reaches extreme, they will respond. And that is why we don't want to go. And that is why we are calling on the clergy. Those of them who have devolved kaka now, they are no longer speaking. Those who were speaking out at any point in time, in the eyes of all this mess, they are not speaking out. They should speak out. Now, assuming that someone is denied the opportunity to participate in an electoral process, not because he was unwilling to do so, but because he didn't have the means. Take Greater Accra, for example. Take a district, a municipality like Medina Bokobi. Some would have to move distances. I don't know whether you played the tape where one President Mahama visited and made his statement on this. In the Sola Tuna Kalba constituency, and sometimes Bola and other places where the communities are so dispersed, someone would have to move 140 kilometers to be able to participate in the process. That person needs a guarantor. He needs two guarantors. He has to take care of the transportation of those two guarantors. I was in a program and a gentleman sent a message to me, a teacher, that Honorable, I have to cross 2 rivers. Meanwhile, on election day, electoral commission will bring electoral materials there. Yet for registration, they are not willing to bring materials there for them to register. Now, another work agreement which was made by Dr. Bosman Asare that the reason why they are limiting it to district because of time constraint, that they have limited time for the purposes of the district assembly elections. Does it even make sense? Does it make sense that you want, because of time constraint, and you want to gather a lot of people, and you are reducing the places where people will go and register? The simple logic is that if you want more people to be registered and you are constrained by time, that is when you even expand. That is when you expand, so that many people can have the opportunity to. How about those who are physically challenged? How about those who are physically challenged? How about those who have conditions, and the conditions are that even carrying them for long distances is going to, deteriorate their conditions? Meanwhile, they all have equal right as long as they have sound mind. Assuming someone has stroke, the person wants to register. If the polling station where he votes or she votes, it will be difficult managing such a person to come and register. Now you have taken it at a far distance. How will the person get there? Now, even when the person got there, the machines are not functioning. The person would have to come back. The next day, he will not be willing to do so. And you see, the enthusiasm, the interest that characterize registration prior to the use of the Ghana card as the only document for the purposes of what God knows. People are no longer interested like the way they were interested in having the voter register, because the things you otherwise would have done with the voter register, voter card, you can no longer do them. You now need a Ghana card. So if you listen to what some of you journalists, the people you've interviewed, they are not interested. They are not interested, not because they wouldn't have loved to register, but the Ghana card is enough for them. So I think that, look, we all need to speak out. The Electoral Commission must do the needful. The 2019 one, 2016 when we had this registration, we had over 6,000 centers. Yet Jim Mensah and my good friend Comrade Okujeto did an excellent research. And I saw a video where he indicated the position and the statements that were made by Jim Mensah when she was the executive director, or the executive whatever, at the IE. Her position has completely changed. In fact, Dr. Bosman Asari was the one who was the loudest in speaking about the need for people not to be disenfranchised, the need for the Electoral Commission to expand the registration. He spoke to these issues on several occasions. When he was the head of Department of the Political Science, even before he became the head of Department of Political Science of University of Ghana, he always found a space. I believe at that time, even if journalists were not calling him, he would call and say, grant me interview, so that he would make his position very known. He has turned 360 degrees, completely against the very position he took before he became the deputy, electoral commissioner for the purposes of elections. So, Senator, to conclude, look, the NDC, and I have a simple message to the young people out there who are deliberately being denied to register by President Nanado and Dr. Baume and the NPP. Teach them a lesson. We know sometimes the frustration that you go through. Please, don't get frustrated. Even if it means you going there for 1 week to be able to register, do so. Because the only way you can stop this from happening in 2027 is by getting these people out. If you do not do that and you get disillusioned and you say, oh, I'm fed up, I won't go and register, the frustrations will be worse in 2027 when perhaps you'll be doing another limited registration. Now, limited registration ought to be done every year. Now, you didn't do that in 2020. You didn't do that in 2021. You didn't do that in 2022. You are doing that in 2023. And now you are reducing the number of centers where people would go and have their names registered. It simply doesn't make sense. And that is why we are saying this. And I expect the religious body, the clergy, those on the bar, the judiciary, who were saying that share loot, now they have lost their voices. Share, is it share? Create loot. When we now have K-Met, loot. Now we now have K-Met, resources, loot. They are not saying anything. We expect them to start speaking out.
Thank you, comrade. A few of your messages before I go to Chifa. There's Suleiman Abdurrahim who says to buy cocoa is a big problem for many Ghanaians.
A tell for channel I share video we also a PENDREAM TV mpacho what share we adwuntwa bia offer video inu ho bia no send my 0277128777 0277128777 WhatsApp number no send your voice ne bra na bebo magana for nyina ate wonka
Dedi kama mamena PENDREAM TV ase na so far so good say open online portal e wo Ghana nipa share nipa follow nipa comment here to my best of knowledge without any biases PENDREAM TV